Okay, so we're going to follow these steps now that we talked about in the previous video to solve these next couple of problems. A couple of notes though is you want to make sure that you keep your work organized, just like I'm going to keep my work organized. It'll really help in the long run for you to see the connections between these different steps, and it'll help you just figure out some of these problems as they get more and more challenging. So here's what I like to do. I like to organize it visually, because when I first read this example, let's look at it. It says, suppose b varies directly as the 6th power of g. If b equals 729 when g equals 2, find b when g equals 10. Now when you first read that, there's a lot of information there, and we can't jump directly to our answer. I can't figure out what b is yet when g equals 10. That's not useful yet. We need to follow these steps, and you have to follow them. If you don't, you're going to get the wrong answer. So if you're using pencil in your book, you can do this very lightly and just make sure you erase it. Otherwise, you can always use this on any worksheets or any quiz or test. But what I like to do is box them up. So the first part, where it says write a general equation, that's going to be the longest part of the problem, because at that point what you're doing is you're basically taking a story problem, or you're taking something that's described in words, and we're going to describe the same thing using symbols. So this is going to be step 1. Step 2 is going to be the part where they give us two numbers, and we need to put those numbers into our equation from step 1 to find out what k is. So that's going to be step 2. Step 3 is kind of implied here. Step 3 is taking those first two answers and putting them together to create our own specific, or the variation equation. And lastly, we're going to be able to answer the actual question. We're going to be able to figure out what b is when g equals 3. So now, let's continue to keep this organized. So it says, suppose b varies directly. Remember, when we hear that phrase, whether it says is directly proportional or varies directly, it means the same thing. It means that it's going to be equal k times something. So it's going to be b equals k times the 6th power of g. Okay, now on to step 2. Step 2 says if b equals 729 when g equals 2. I'm going to plug those two numbers in to figure out what k is. So notice they don't ask me, nowhere in here does it tell me that I need to find k. But doing these problems, you need to know that is part of the solution. You need to figure out what k is, even though they don't ask you. So it's going to be b is 729 equals k times my g, which is 2 to the 6th power. Now 2 to the 6th power is 64. So we get k is 11.3906. Again, remember not to round. Step 3 is where we combine these first two steps and make one specific equation or variation equation. So it's still going to be b equals, but instead of k, it's 11.3906 times g to the 6th. And lastly, now I can actually use the information they give me to figure out what b equals. So I want to find b when g is 10. So it's going to be b equals 11.3906 times my value of g, which is 10 to the 6th power. When we do that, we get 11,390,600 as your answer. So the nice thing is you want to make sure that you follow these steps, so then that way later on you can look back and you can see where all your steps are. And if I'm grading your quiz, I can also see where any mistakes are to help you out. Okay, I want you guys to try this last one on your own. So pause the video and hit play when you're ready to check it. Okay. So again, here's our different steps. So step 1, come up with our general equation. M equals, vary directly, so it's going to be k times the 5th power of p, p to the 5th power. Our second step, find out what k is. So it says m equals 96 when p equals 2. So it's going to be 96 when p is 2. Do the work. Well, 2 to the 5th power is going to be 32. So that means k is 3. Next, again, it's the part that's implied. We got to create our specific, our variation equation, which is m equals 3 times p to the 5th. And now, my last step, I can figure out what m equals. So m equals 3 times 5 to the 5th. Now be careful, 5 to the 5th is not 25. So if you got 75 as your answer, you did something wrong there, because 5 to the 5th, yeah, that means it's 5 times itself 5 times. So take that times 3, ends up with 9,375 as your final answer. So hopefully doing these last two problems now are starting to make sense, and will help you out on your homework assignment. But good luck.